Hey everybody, Jim Hemingway, neighborhood poker player here. I play in a neighborhood game here in the Denver area. We typically get 10 to 11 guys each month. We rotate hosting duties. It's a friendly low stakes game. We go from 50 cents to $5 at the high end, and a big pot's maybe $75. 90% of our games are Omaha though, and there's a good reason for that. Let me share with you why. To me, these two pictures show you the difference between Omaha and Hold'em. Omaha on the left is an 80-inch 8K TV. Hold'em is a black and white console set from the 40s, maybe a foot diagonal. And the reason is for the two things. First of all, Omaha has four hole cards, so players get very optimistic, maybe unduly so, about how good their hand can be. And the second factor is the presence of the low hand. We play high-low split with an 8 qualifier. So the presence of both high and low hands and four-hole cards generates big pots. I retired a few years ago, but in my work life, I worked as an analytics manager in the financial services credit card sector. We did modeling and segmentation and customer treatments for credit products. So I got used to using quantitative techniques there. When I was younger, I did card counting for 10 or 15 years and did some other blackjack advantage gambling techniques. So I'm familiar and comfortable doing simulations to figure out games. And so here's Omaha. Here's my contribution here. The first couple of years that we had the game going, I didn't have any analytics. I had bought a couple books and read them, but the thing that most of the authors emphasize is that they say that the most important skill is the ability to look at the board at the end and figure out the nuts and figure out where you are relative to the nuts. And I do concede that that's a fairly important skill and probably the most important, but very, very close second is getting help at the top of the funnel to decide which hands you want to keep. And there are hands that get you in trouble and hands that come up second best and hands that just never go anywhere. You need to know what those are. Maybe it's obvious, maybe it's not, but I think I'm going to contribute to your ability to do that here. So what I did was I simulated 10 hands because that's about what we have in a typical game. 10 hands plus a flop, and just calculate the probability of each hand being the best one at the end. And in card counting, you assign point values to cards, and you keep a running count. That kind of simplifies it. You don't have to memorize every single combination. So you remember counts, and you convert to a true count. Poker's different, right? Because you're dealing from a new pack every time. Well, what you have to do is you have to give people enough rules, group hands together into simple rules that allow them to decision any hand. And so that's what I'm gonna give you here. All right, let's get started. Okay, so here I've got 6 characteristics here that we'll discuss at some point during the rest of the presentation. The first 4 are pertain to the player's hand, and the last 2 pertain to the flop. So the first one is ace present, yes or no, self-explanatory. Suitedness, are you unsuited, are you single suited, are you double suited? Obviously, the more the better. Coverage, a lot of poker types players talk about this concept of connectors. Do you have 7-8? 7-8s they're connected. I use that, but I call the term coverage in my analysis here because I not only use connectors, the concept of connectors, but I also use distribution. Do you have connectors at the high end or connectors at the low end? So I have my coverage variable. Pairs, you can see I've listed pairs, but then crossed it out. If you control for these other factors, pairs don't matter. The last 2 characteristics pertain to the flop. The first one is how many qualifying low cards do you have on the flop? We play in our high-low game. We play 8 qualifier, meaning that all 5 cards in the low hand have to be 8 or less. So if you don't get 2 of those on the flop, that's bad for a low hand. And the last one, flop suitedness. So this reflects, is the flop suited? Is it unsuited? I.e., 3 different cards, 3 different suits. Or does it have 2 or more of any suit? So those are the characteristics that I'll be discussing here. All right, so let's discuss suitedness first. I've got 3 examples. The first one is pretty good. Players, he started out double suited, right? Diamonds and spades. Players getting, he likes that, and but the flop comes to, suited aces. So that's what I would call suited away, right? It's suited in something that you don't have. You need 2 or more to be suited, suited away. So you don't like that. The middle case, case 2 here, you're single suited in diamonds. The flop comes unsuited. All suits are different. So if the flop is unsuited, that's kind of a neutral state of affairs. The last case is obviously what you look for as a player. You're suited in diamonds. The flop comes suited in diamonds, also meaning 2 or more. So you don't need 3, but you just need 2. So now I've got 4 diamonds. I've got a flush draw, and I got two outs for a flush draw. So I call that suited home. Let's talk about coverage. So like I said, coverage measures both connectedness and then the high-low distribution. So low here is defined as ace through 5, and low is ace to 5, high is 10 through ace. And the calculation or the variable is determined just by asking, do you have a card of this rank, yes or no? A yes is a 1 and no is a 0. Suits don't matter, pairs don't matter. Aces obviously go both ways, they count high and low. So if we go to the first example here, let's see, a king, jack, 4, 2. The king and the jack, we get a 1 for each rank there. 4 and the 2 get a 1 there. We have 2 high, the king and the jack, and 2 low, the 4 and the 2. If we have a pair of aces, pair of 2s, remember pairs don't matter, so you just mark the ace as 1, the 2 is 1, and the ace is 1 for high. You have 1 high and 2 low. Ace, king, queen, 2, very good hand, obviously. Ace, king, and queen at the high end get marked 1. The ace and the 2 get marked 1 at the low. So you have 3 high, 2 low. And then last example, jack, 8, 6, 4. So the jack gets marked in the high range there. The 4 gets marked in the low range, and the 6 and the 8 are in the middle. So we call that 1 high, 1 low. All right, so the green, let's discuss the green table. This is where the rubber meets the road. And I'll walk through the legend here, and hopefully, it's a lot of information. It'll simplify it, and you'll be able to understand it quickly. Bullet point number 1. So the table is broken up into, the top is the hand counts in the simulation, and the bottom number 2 is the percentage advantage, or the percentage of time that this hand ends up being the best. Bullet point 3 shows that there's 49,572 hands. The reason there aren't 50,000, I've already excluded the trips and the quads, because if you get trips or quads, throw it away. It's a horrible hand, right? They have about a 6% win rate. Bullet point 4 shows you that they're color-coded. It's color-coded based on the percentage win rate, and at 10%, it goes to green. Below that, it's red, and if it's above 15, it's dark green. Number 5, the average hand obviously is a 10% win because there's 10 of them, so that should give you some confidence that it's correct. All right, so let's go through the topography here. So number 6 is the first split column-wise. Aces on the right, yes. No aces on the left. Number 7 is the coverage split, right? So the coverage split is, do you have 2 plus high only? So you either have 3 plus high, 3 high and 1 low, or 3 high and anything, or a 2 high and you don't have 2 low, right? So high only means if you have 2 high cards, you need a medium and a low as the other 2. And then everything else is other, obviously. 8, player suitedness. Are you unsuited, suited, or double suited? And number 9 is flop suitedness, right? And then it's either 3 cases. Suited away, which is bad, unsuited, which is sort of neutral, and suited home, which is obviously good. All right, so I have a 3-step underwriting process, if you will, for the hands. So the first step to throw away. So I throw away 3 groups of hands. The first throwaway group is number 1 here, and that is any hand that's unsuited pre-flop, gone. It's about 10% of the hands. You can see 5,100 out of the 50,000, and the average win rate is 8.1%, so 20% below average. Get rid of them. Then wait for the flop. So once the flop comes, you'll throw away about 40% of the remaining hands. So if you're single suited here and the flop comes suited away, bullet point number 2, throw them away. So it's a lot of hands, almost 18,000 hands out of the 50, 36%, and the average win rate is only 7.7%. So it's even worse than throwing away the unsuited before the flop. The third group to throw away is what I call the no ace weak hand. So you're over here on the no ace side, and you're not in the 2 plus high only, you're in the other group. So these are weak. These are either 2 high, 2 low, or at most 1 high. And you throw those away unless you're suited home. So if it's unsuited, suited away, get rid of them. And so this will leave you playing about a third of the hands post-flop. All right, let's move on to low. That's even easier. So here's low. I'll go through the legend. Bullet point 1 is the ace split, is the same as it was in the prior slides. Number 2 is the coverage split. Same logic, but different makeup here. It's divided into 3 groups: 2 low, 3 plus low, and other. Bullet point number 3 is the flop low / qualifying. So here the low means 8 or less, not 5 or less. Okay, so what do we throw away? What do we do first? So the first thing we do is the logic is you only keep if you have an ace, you need to keep two low or 3 plus low. So you need 2 plus low cards to stay in with if you have an ace. If you don't have an ace, you need 3 or more. And then you wait for the flop and you throw away. If you don't end up with 4 plus eligible cards after the flop, you throw it away. As you can see, bullet point 5 here. If you get up to 0 or 1 qualifying cards, it's really bad because just reflecting the fact that you're probably not going to get a low at all. So if you don't get at least 2, then throw it away. And the overall win rate of 6% compared to 10% implies that about 60% of the hands of the flops will have a low hand. We'll have a low qualifying hand. Okay, so that's my strategy. Here you can see I threw up the winning hand distribution for Omaha. You can see it's heavily weighted, straights, flushes, and full houses. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you found the video helpful and will help you in your games. Good luck, and I'm reachable on X at Hemingway Jim. Thank you. See you later.